if we so desperately needed a slight reprieve from the Mike Gundy situational sadness, we've officially got it. Or should we say, get nuts for Lutz, because we got him.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All Day State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Mazda. Like some of our players that sweat every single detail, so does Mazda. Because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward moment with Mazda, where you can move and be moved. Speaking of being moved, we have it. We have that feeling that we have been yearning for in Cowboy basketball once again, because Jalen Montonati, or shall we call him Timothy Montonati, just committed to Oklahoma State within the last hour and a half. What a massive name. What a massive day, and what a massive get for Steve Lutz and Cowboy basketball. Chad Weiberg deserves to take a little bit of a bow here too, but we'll save some of that for later. Jalen Montonati is this year's version, this team's version, this Steve Lutz era's version of Cade Cunningham. Is he going to be Cade levels? No, I'm not necessarily saying that. But when it comes to the recruiting acumen being potentially the only question mark surrounding Steve Lutz, this indicates that that is over. The question mark surrounding his ability to get the top recruits in the country, it now ends. And what it also does is open up a crazy door for the next Oklahoma State recruiting class to once again creep back into the top 10 because of the statue kind of figure that Brian Montonati is at Oklahoma State with the Eddie Sutton connections. Guys, we all know that Steve Lutz operates off of that old school Eddie Sutton tree, the tenacity, diving for loose balls, flying over the scoreboards to do whatever necessary to get one more steal, one more rebound, one more point. That has been an emphasis once again in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Can we put him in football pads nowadays? No, probably not. But that level of discipline and accountability was what we were lacking from the Mike Boynton squads. Mike Boynton was a remarkable recruiter, as was Travis Ford. The X's and O's portion were a little bit lacking. Steve Lutz proved this previous season at the latter half of the year that he's got the X's and O's portion down. He has the ability to inspire players to do more and win more ball games and put us in a position to be more successful. He was able to do that. Now we have Jalen Montonati committed to Oklahoma State. Hopefully this makes Brian Montonati's heart happy. I imagine that Eddie Sutton is up there somewhere right now, smiling down from the heavens, excited as all get out. This is a massive get for Oklahoma State. As most people know, Jalen Montonati is coached by the Cowboy legend Brian Montonati at Owasso. He had to deal with a ton of injuries this previous season, but even then, he was averaging over 25 points a game, a couple assists a game, a few steals a game, a few rebounds a game before the injury. Then he goes over to play for Team USA. He wins a gold medal in the U16 World Championships. He's represented Team USA in multiple categories for multiple years now. And when he's representing for even Italy overseas, the dude goes overseas and a bad day is like 20, 21 points. He's dropping 30, 40 burgers on a somewhat consistent basis. He can hit it from the outside. He can dribble. He can drive. He can facilitate. He's got good size at 6'6", 6'7". He's going to be able to get into the strength and conditioning program at Oklahoma State, add a little bit of mass, add a little bit of muscle, add a little bit more of that meanness that Steve Lutz is coveting, because that's the way he coaches. This is a massive, massive ordeal for Oklahoma State, and we can call a spade a spade. The only reason we didn't talk a ton about Jalen Montonati on the show, and we did cover him quite a bit this previous year, but recently it felt like he was going to go to KU. Let's call it what it is. Jalen Montonati is a consensus 4-star, and if he wouldn't have been injured this previous season, it is easily possible that he could have been a 5-star dude. The Blue Bloods all across the country, the Dukes, the Kentuckys, the Kansases, they want Jalen Montonati. And we got to realize that Bill Self has a relationship. Bill Self goes back to the Brian Montonati days, at least to some degree. Bill Self is an Oklahoma State connection that surely Brian Montonati was going to be happy if his son ended up being a KU Jayhawk. But here we are. It is time to restore the rowdy, restore the roar, whatever you want to call it, in GIA. Turn that place into what it's supposed to be, because this opportunity here will set the recruiting class moving forward into potentially unprecedented areas. The lack of capitalization from the last time we had a top-notch team, I think if you go back to Markel Brown, LeBrian Nash, Michael Cobbins, and then obviously you got to factor in Cade Cunningham, James Anderson. We've had some heavy hitters that have come through Oklahoma State, but collectively, we didn't always get the most out of them. Collectively, we didn't necessarily make Big 12 title runs all that often. The X's and O's portion was always the determining factor on how successful we were going to be. That was also largely the limiting factor. Last season, Steve Lutz proved that that is no longer a limitation. You saw a progression. You saw a team that got better. You saw a team that bought in. And he was able to accomplish a ton at the latter half of the season while having injuries. So we know that we're going to have some obstacles with injuries moving into the season, which we're going to cover a little bit later. But if anybody's looking for an excitement reason, this is it. Just like it's time to rally behind Oklahoma State. It's about this. It's about Oklahoma State, what's on the front of the jersey. So if we're going to show up in droves to support Cowboy football, to show that the next coach, the next class of recruits, the next iteration of Cowboy culture for current players that are going to stay, it starts now, not only in Boone Pickens Stadium, but also in Gallagher-Iba. This is the opportunity that we needed. This was the proof that Steve Lutz can go out and acquire the best talent. He is the best player in the state of Oklahoma. And he's one of the top players in America. And he probably would be a 5-star if he didn't deal with an injury this previous season that caused him to miss a significant chunk of time. The expectations need to change. And yes, I understand that a future recruit doesn't seemingly have anything to do with this season, but I disagree. And you know what? We're going to expound upon that here in a second. But before we do that, we do have to remind the fine folks out here that there's a lot of things in life that give you that streaky, good feeling. And DoorDash is one of them. Game day weekend is almost upon us, so it's time to get a streak rocking and rolling once again with DoorDash. We need to look back and crown this previous week's MVP on who delivered. Powered by DoorDash, just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most, so let's break it down. For Locked On Oklahoma State listeners and the Cowboys, I think we got to look at Brian McCloy. Was the Tulsa game a disaster? Yes. Did it hurt us in the heart? Yes. Did it lead to catastrophic events? Yes. But at least Brian McCloy is out here statistically representing for Oklahoma State and putting himself in the upper echelon of the Big 12 when it comes to things like tackles, which are pretty necessary to win ball games. The Cowboys have a chance to rally behind Mike Gundy and with Doug Meacham to make a statement against Baylor. Without hesitation, without delay, I feel like Brian McCloy is going to show up. If you've been watching Brian McCloy throughout the course of the season, week after week, his performances are clearly not a fluke. So Brian McCloy is on the streak that you need to be a part of as well. And just like Brian McCloy delivered for the Cowboys this previous weekend, DoorDash delivers for you on your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday on your order, stack it all up throughout the course of the season, and eventually save up to $250, including 100 bones back in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash Terms apply. And the promotional period ends on the 18th of November. Keep your streak going. Have a delivery made this Saturday to your doorstep with, of course, DoorDash. From DoorDash to capitalization, FanDuel is the bee's knees for all of your betting needs. I know you know that. But you also know NFL season is here. If we need a little reprieve from Cowboy football at times, the NFL can give it to us, and FanDuel is going to give us the best cannot-miss offers in the industry. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get 300 bones back in bonus bets to use all across the app. You're going to love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building same-game parlays, or even just jumping into the live action whenever it kicks off. it makes every single game more exciting because your investment level is clearly heightened. Whether you're just watching your favorite team or you're keeping an eye on a potential fantasy lineup, FanDuel is what you need to get rocking and rolling with. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com. Go there today to place your first $5 hauler. If you're a winner, you get $300 back in bonus bets to use all across the app at FanDuel. We're going to keep this train moving. Yes, of course, Steve Lutz, take a bow, but also Chad Weiberg, take a bow. We were just discussing how the David Taylor hire was an absolute home run. The J.C. Hoyt hire, another absolutely massive home run. The only question was Steve Lutz. The fact that Chad Weiberg was willing to step up to the plate and handle this Mike Gundy situation, no matter how it was orchestrated behind closed doors, it had to have naturally been difficult for Chad Weiberg, but the connection level that he brings to Oklahoma State, it's a little bit deeper. It hits a little bit harder, especially now. We all know that Chad Weiberg is a diehard basketball dude because of the plane crash and the fact that he grew up in Gallagher-Iba and even to some degree running around the stands of Boone Pickens Stadium. So Chad Weiberg does believe in Oklahoma State because he bleeds Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State basketball is always going to be at the forefront. So if there was any reservations about whether Steve Lutz is going to be the guy or not, is he going to be good enough at acquisitional talent? That answer has now become readily available with Jalen Montonati. So hats off to Chad Weiberg. And I think all of this need to calm down a bit and realize that if he continuously is hitting David Taylor level, J.C. Hoyt level, Jalen Montonati level home runs because of the coaches that he hires, I'm excited about what is about to come in Oklahoma State football. And yes, next episode, we're going to jump into more of the Oklahoma State Cowboy coaching search in football because names are heating up, and it makes it extremely interesting just to see the level of guy that we're willing to go after. But we'll save that for next episode. This episode is about Jalen Montonati, Steve Lutz, Chad Weiberg. And, you know, in today's age, sometimes it's probably difficult to get buy-in from young men to be a part of this old school, toughness-oriented style of basketball that Steve Lutz has brought back to Oklahoma State once again. You know that he wants to play an exciting brand of basketball, especially offensively. He wants to have the ability to run up and down the court. He also wants to know that when we get into a half-court set, that his X's and O's are going to allow some of the players to get the shots that they weren't necessarily able to get this previous season. When you have so many dudes that can distribute the rock effectively, and now you have an adequate amount of shooting, the expectations are clearly set to rise. But Chad Weiberg, this is such a crescendo moment. With everything that's transpired over the last week, even to some degree the last few months, there was some hesitation on whether Chad Weiberg was going to be the dude. But if, in fact, donors are coming out of the woodworks to some degree to be more invested than ever in the Oklahoma State Cowboy football search, we just did a remarkable Twitter space put on by Jason Sherman the other day where, you know, Kenyatta Wright came up and spoke. Vance came up and spoke. And as you guys may know, Vance is like the cream of the crop when it comes to NIL for basketball. And the ability that Oklahoma State has is naturally going to be increased whenever Chad Weiberg is able to deliver to this level, to this capacity. The fact that we were able to pull this off is huge for Chad Weiberg. And I think it should calm everybody down about the coaching search for football. Just like it should calm everybody down to see what Steve Lutz did at the tail end of the season. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. What Steve Lutz win, 8 of the last 12, 13-ish or so to end the season while dealing with a couple of injuries, while manipulating the starting five and who's going to be the sixth man and all that multiple times throughout the course of the season. The level of buy-in was very visible the latter half of the year. The availability of the players may have been in question, but the ability to go scrap for some extra W's that we weren't supposed to get, they put that on display. Then we go off to the NIT and we make it competitive. We win a few games. we get ourselves in a position to make a run at an NIT title. Is the NIT what Oklahoma State basketball is going to strive for? Absolutely not. But after the debacle of some of the Mike Boynton era stuff, and Mike Boynton was a remarkable individual. He was a great dude, a good ambassador for Oklahoma State, a good representative, a really, really quality recruiter. But the results varied. The X's and O's were questioned. Steve Lutz answered that call. The only question around Steve Lutz was, can he recruit? Travis Ford could, Mike Boynton could. Could Steve Lutz? Can Steve Lutz? Well, the answer is yes. And now this is our moment to support Chad Weiberg, because Gallagher-Iba is a different animal. Yes, Fog Allen is impressive. The Cameron Crazies at Duke are impressive. Rupp Arena for Kentucky, it's impressive. But anybody out here, and help me out in the comment section, Gallagher-Iba Arena is not just a place to watch a game. Gallagher-Iba Arena is a physical experience. Shout out to the regulars, a.k.a. regulators. You've heard me preach this before, but the only time I've ever felt what Gallagher-Iba can provide on a regular basis inside Boone Pickens Stadium was 2023 Bedlam. And that's also partially because it was standing room only. The fact that they allowed that many people in, I thought was a huge deal. Extremely grateful that they were able to do that, because it gave an environment in Boone Pickens Stadium that you could physically feel. The reverberation in your body in Gallagher-Iba Arena when there's 13,000 plus, it is an experience that you cannot ever forget. Right? When I was in the oil field and I was taking clients to basketball games, people with season tickets to other places would come to Gallagher-Iba, and when they did get to see 13,000 plus in that building, every single time, they would leave saying, I must admit, I've never experienced something like that. The visceral, physical feeling that a packed out Gallagher-Iba gives you is extremely rare in all of college athletics, even professional athletics. There's always been this notion, well, not always, but in the Ford and Boynton era, should we lower the seat numbers in Gallagher-Iba? My answer is absolutely flipping not. Because if you can get it rocking again, that is the best place in college basketball to be a part of a game. And again, I know the Fog's great, KU's great, Duke's great, whatever. But if you grew up in the Eddie Sutton era and you went to Oklahoma State basketball games, it gave you a physical feeling that football could never give you. Lewis Field could never give that feeling. Boone Pickens Stadium, it's one of the loudest in the country just because of the way that it's built, right? And the orientation of the seats compared to the sidelines, the horseshoe shape bouncing off of Gallagher-Iba. So we know that Boone Pickens Stadium can provide a level of intensity that is difficult for other teams to deal with when we're good. Gallagher-Iba does the same thing, but I've been preaching this for a few years now, and unfortunately not enough people have got to experience. And recently, whenever we do get 12-ish thousand plus, we don't win. So it lessens the experience. Here's the deal, guys. Jalen Montonati is going to attract a different caliber of player. If he's the catalyst for this upcoming recruiting class, or one of the main catalysts for this upcoming recruiting class, he's going to bring dudes in to games. So we're going to have bigger names that have offers from bigger brands now coming to be part of whatever Jalen Montonati might have rocking and rolling. So we need to get Gallagher-Iba rocking and rolling again, because that alone will get commits. Guys, we had conversations with Caleb Boone and some of those age era dudes that straight up said on this show, I didn't know a lot about Oklahoma State, even though I grew up in Tulsa. But whenever I went to a game that had 12,000 plus, I instantaneously said, yes, this is the spot. Sign me up. Whatever it is, whatever you want, whatever you need, I'm in it. I want to be a part of this. And unfortunately, he didn't get to experience very many 12,000 plus games. But when he got to see it on a recruiting trip, every other trip, every other school, every other offer was so insignificant that it didn't matter. And it's not just the Boones. There has always been a narrative by recruits that Oklahoma State is way, way, way different when it's packed out. We're looking for more NIL dollars. We're looking for more marketability, which gives us profitability, which gives us better chances of exposure for the student body to also get bigger. But if we don't show up, if we fail to pack out Boone Pickens Stadium, we can't complain about the next recruiting class. If we fail to pack out Gallagher-Iba, we can't complain about what Cowboy basketball does in the next few seasons. This is our moment as a fan base that Chad Weiberg and Steve Lutz are giving us. We have to take advantage of it, because every time that Jalen Montonati brings people to a game or tells people you need to go to Stiller America, if they come in and Gallagher-Iba's got 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in it, it ain't going to work. It ain't going to do nothing. But if we pack it out and give people that visceral, physical reverberation in your body that Gallagher-Iba gives you, we're talking about a top 5 class. Yeah, we've had a decent number of top 10 classes, but a top 5 class? I don't know. With a Cade Cunningham-esque guy, again, not saying he's Cade, the future number 1 overall draft pick, one and done guy. I'm not saying that at all. But it feels pretty close. If Jalen Montonati just continues on the current path that he's on, he's probably going to be an NBA level dude. We need to reap the benefits of what that could provide for us, but it's up to us. It's up to us to show recruits, yes, this is why you need to come here instead of KU. Same with Boone Pickens Stadium. This isn't a time to say, well, they got rid of the greatest coach of all time, so I'm not going to go anymore. I'm not going to buy tickets. The emotion is good. We just need to shift the emotion to positivity and positively say, Oklahoma State is the place for the top talent in the country to come. Oklahoma State is no longer a stepping stone job for a football coach, which we're about to talk about. Because the names that are floating around that seem to have at least a little bit of interview level merit by the AD donors and stuff, it's worth paying attention to. And I think that this just adds more to that. Last but not least, it's our time to be moved. We're feeling movement right now. I can feel it in my loins. The excitement level surrounding Cowboy basketball at the moment is very high. This episode is brought to you by Mazda, and we're going to move the game forward. For those that believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just simply put points up on the board. They move crowds. They move cultures. They keep the game moving forward as well. This previous week, right, you got to give your hat off to former Cowboy Dominic Richardson, rushing for almost $150. It was nice to see former Cowboy Braylon Presley get out there, scored the first touchdown of the game, make some stuff happen. It was nice to see an improvement from some of the defensive players like Brian McCoy. There's a lot of positives that we can take from Oklahoma State football. There's a lot of positives we can take from the feeling that we're getting at this very moment with this Jalen Montonati news. It moves us. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning, as we just witnessed. And just like there's more to every single highlight, there's also more to every single Mazda vehicle. So go be a part of Mazda. Get that experience that you deserve with Mazda, where you can move and be moved. All right, before we shift into the next episode covering a Cowboy football coaching search, we got to tie a nice little bow on this. Should the expectations climb with this announcement? And of course, naturally, people are going to say, Cody, Jalen Montonati has nothing to do with this season. I disagree. Why? Because Jalen Montonati would have not made this decision if he's not seeing something physically at practices, at workouts that show him, okay, I need to be a part of this. What Steve Lutz is building is exactly what I need to be a part of. You don't come to Oklahoma State stuff and make this kind of decision if you're not very, very impressed with what you're seeing. And Brian Montonati, being an Eddie Sutton Final Four level legend, he's naturally going to get invited to more stuff, more practices, more workouts. So Jalen Montonati has got to see the inner workings probably of Oklahoma State basketball more than anybody else. Now, worst case scenario, Brian Montonati is getting updates on what is happening at an almost unprecedented level. Because make no mistake about it, Steve Lutz knows good and daggone well this is his Cade Cunningham style kind of get that will allow him to build one of the best recruiting classes of all time if we do our part. The expectations need to climb a little bit because somebody of that level doesn't make a decision like this unless he loves what he's seeing. You don't come to Oklahoma State if you have offers from all of the blue bloods all across the country if you don't think they can be a winner. So yes, the Jalen Montonati announcement and commitment today does uptick our expectations for this Cowboy team in this Cowboy season. I mean, guys, think about the roster. This previous year, Steve Lutz was kind of late to the party, which means he was late to the party in recruiting. So that means the transfer portal dues that we did get, yeah, obviously not bad whatsoever, but it was never going to be quite what we needed. It was never going to be quite to the level of competing for a top 4 or 5 spot in the Big 12. And yes, a top 5 spot in the Big 12 easily gets you into the dance. And I think Oklahoma State is good enough to make something like that happen this year. You got Kanye Clary from Mississippi State, who was averaging 16.7 points a game the year prior at Penn State. You got Christian Coleman, who turned down a bunch of other ACC-style schools to come here. Isaiah Coleman, we had to beat other teams off of the recruiting landscape of Isaiah Coleman with a baseball bat to acquire services. We got it. We also get another big man, Parsiflaw from Oregon State. You get Anthony Roy, a dude that averaged like 34.4 points a game this previous season. Plus he has that Doug Gottlieb passing acumen and the offensive abilities that we were able to see were definitely on display. How about a Victorious Miller? Phenomenal story off the court, great story on the court. This LSU transfer is here to send a message. So is the UMass transfer, Jalen Curry. We just talked about distribution of the ball, a guy that can drive and dish and create opportunities. Jalen Curry is going to help with that. So is Daniel Guetta, the Israeli guard transfer, who much like Lefteris Montezukis has played a ton of top-level semi-pro basketball that's going to give him a different perspective to look at. And Lefteris Montezukis, again, remember, just a couple years ago, he was on the top 15 best draftable Europeans, and we take that experience with us here now to Oklahoma State. On top of that, guys, Ben Ahmed dealing with an injury, a big 6'11" kind of dude that hurts. Mekhi Ragland has a little bit of an injury. Obviously, that's going to hurt. But we do have Robert Jennings returning, the Texas Tech transfer that has largely been a beast just to go down low and throw some bows. He's in the fold once again, and he likely did have opportunities to go elsewhere. Then you got Vavukic coming back again. He entered the portal there for a brief moment, and then he decided to come back to Oklahoma State, which gives us another capable dude with size to kind of cover up whatever the limitations are going to be of Mekhi Ragland and Ben Ahmed. It gives us time. Nonetheless, when you look at this roster and you look at this movement happening with Jalen Montonati, if we do our part, Oklahoma State basketball could finally be back where it's supposed to be, where we wanted it to be, where it needs to be. Get Gallagher-Iba a breathing, living entity instead of just a place. Once again, and the next recruiting class could be one of the, if not the top class in Oklahoma State history. Let's rally behind Steve Lutz, get nuts for Lutz, rally behind Chad Weiberg, and the coaching search. It's heating up. These names are crazy. And the fact that it's actually a possibility, maybe even more crazy. Anywho, that's all we're going to have for this one, Rye Share. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listening here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor. Hit the like button if you like it. Dislike if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there. You are everything that makes this work. Without you, this would be very, very difficult to have accomplishments. So I appreciate what you do. So go do what you do. Hit those stars. Leave those reviews. All right, y'all. Later, taters.